My name is Adam Wallace. I'm 45 years old, and for 2 decades I was the Director of Innovation and Research and Development at Carter Innovations, a family-owned tech company based in Austin, Texas. Throughout all those years, I dedicated my passion and talent to developing the products that made us industry leaders in innovative solutions for industrial automation. If you like stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, subscribe to the channel now. There are 2 new, unreleased stories here every day, and each one is more impactful than the last. I worked side by side with my father, Frederick Carter, the company's founder. He always saw me as the creative brain behind our intellectual property, the true heart of innovation that kept Carter Innovations competitive. I was the one who developed the complex algorithms, the base codes that powered our most profitable systems. My brother Benjamin Carter, 2 years younger, worked in sales and always saw me as just the artist, not the businessman the company needed. I've always been more reserved, preferring to create and build quietly. While Benjamin shined in presentations and client meetings, I spent hours in the development lab, perfecting each line of code, each process. My discretion and focus on the product were interpreted by Benjamin as a lack of ambition for power. He didn't understand that my true passion lay in creation, not corporate politics. In the final months before our father's sudden retirement, I began noticing changes in Benjamin's behavior. He was asking strange questions about product source codes, software licenses, technical documentation, subjects that had never interested him before. My intuition, developed through years of creating innovations and predicting market trends, told me he was preparing for some kind of power play. Frederick had subtly warned me about Benjamin's excessive ambition. "Adam," he said one afternoon, "you need to protect your work. Creation is your strength, but it can also be your vulnerability if you don't know how to guard it." At the time, I thought they were just the concerns of an aging father. How wrong I was. Years earlier, as a precaution, I had developed the core technology for our most profitable products in my spare time, using my own resources. Anticipating possible future disputes, I registered this vital intellectual property, algorithm patents, base codes, innovative processes, under my personal name, but with a lifetime usage license for Carter Innovations, as long as I remained as R&D director or chief consultant for any modifications. All the legal documents for this intellectual property were stored in a bank safety deposit box outside the company. I also kept communications where I warned about the importance of my technical knowledge for business continuity. Only my father and our family attorney, Linda Peterson, knew this information. They agreed to keep it secret as a guarantee for the company's future and my position. When Frederick announced his retirement, Benjamin quickly ascended to the presidency. The board, made up mainly of longtime family friends, approved the transition without question. 3 weeks after taking office, Benjamin summoned me to his new office, the same one where our father had worked for decades. I entered the room and found Benjamin sitting behind the mahogany desk with a smug smile I didn't recognize. "Have a seat, Adam," he said, gesturing to the chair across from the desk. "We need to talk about the company's future." "Sure," I replied, still unsuspecting of what was coming. Benjamin leaned back in his chair and interlaced his fingers. "Our company needs new creative leadership. Your position as R&D director has been eliminated. As the new president, I'll personally assume direction of research and development." The words hit like a hammer. My own brother was firing me from our family company, coldly, as if I were just any employee. "I understand this might be a shock," Benjamin continued, "but it's a necessary restructuring to consolidate presidential power. I have a new vision for Carter Innovations, and unfortunately it doesn't include your current position." I felt the humiliation and deep betrayal burning in my chest, my own brother discarding me as if I were a stranger. But my response was calm, controlled. "Understood, Benjamin. The company is yours now." Inside, however, clarity took hold of me. He had no idea what he had just done. Benjamin Carter, the salesman who had always underestimated the artist, had just signed the death warrant of the very company he thought he had conquered. I left Benjamin's office with the same calm demeanor as always, greeted the employees I encountered along the way, and collected my personal belongings. No one imagined I had just been fired. I maintained professionalism until the end, but inside I was processing every detail of the conversation, every nuance of my brother's smug expression. In the following days, while officially processing my departure from the company, I observed Benjamin's movements from a distance. Through contacts I maintained within the company, I learned he was bragging about the new era of Carter Innovations to investors and partners. He talked about ambitious plans to license our products to new international markets, about expanding the product line, about his revolutionary vision for the company. What Benjamin didn't know was that the restructuring he had orchestrated was actually a plan to remove me and gain total control over my intellectual property, without my interference or credit. He completely underestimated the fact that I was the original creator of the algorithms that sustained the entire business. Linda Peterson, our family attorney, called me a week after my departure. "Adam, I need to tell you something concerning," she said. "Benjamin approached me yesterday asking about the company's technical documentation. He wants to transfer all patents and intellectual properties to a new subsidiary he's creating." "And what did you tell him?" I asked. "That I would need to review all documentation before any transfer." He got irritated, said that as president he had total authority. "I didn't mention anything about your personal patents." As we agreed. I thanked Linda and hung up the phone. It was exactly what I expected. Benjamin was trying to seize all my work, completely ignoring the legal aspects he didn't understand. 2 weeks after my departure, the first problems began to appear. I learned through a former colleague that Benjamin had tried to close a major licensing deal with a German company, but was blocked by intellectual property issues. The German company's legal department had identified inconsistencies in the patent documentation. They wanted to speak directly with the principal developer of the algorithms, Jake Morrison, one of the senior engineers who had remained at the company, told me. Benjamin said he was responsible for the development himself, but when they asked specific technical questions, he couldn't answer. 3 weeks later, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Benjamin had hired a new R&D team, promising high salaries to attract talent from other companies. The problem was they couldn't understand the complex structure of my patented algorithms. The source codes that were at the company were just implementation versions, not the fundamental algorithms I had developed and patented separately. Jake called me again, this time more worried. "Adam, it's chaos here." The new team tried to update the main system and caused critical bugs in 3 of our most important products. Benjamin is desperate, yelling at everyone, saying you guys left the documentation incomplete on purpose. I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't sabotage. It was simply the reality that Benjamin had dismissed the only person who truly understood how everything worked. It was like firing a building's architect and then being surprised when no one else could read the blueprints. Benjamin's first call came on a Thursday night. I was at home, enjoying a quiet dinner with my wife, Sarah, when the phone rang. "Adam," he said, and I could hear the poorly disguised desperation in his voice. "We need to talk. There have been some misunderstandings about your departure." "There were no misunderstandings, Benjamin," I replied calmly. "You were quite clear about eliminating my position. Look, maybe I was hasty. The company is going through some technical challenges, and your expertise would be valuable. How about we talk again about your role here?" "I have no interest in returning to Carter Innovations at the moment," I said. "I'm exploring other opportunities." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Other opportunities? Adam, you can't just leave and take your knowledge to the competition. We have confidentiality agreements, non-compete clauses." "I'm sure my attorney will review any relevant legal issues," I replied. "Good night, Benjamin." I hung up the phone and returned to dinner. Sarah looked at me with an amused expression. "He's starting to understand what he did, isn't he?" "He's starting to," I confirmed. "But he still doesn't fully get it." In the following days, the calls became more frequent and more desperate. Benjamin offered my old position back, with a 30% raise, then 50%. He even mentioned company stock, profit sharing, anything to get me back. But I had made my decision. It wasn't about money or position. It was about principles. Benjamin had humiliated me, discarded me as if I were dispensable, and now he was discovering he had made the biggest mistake of his professional life. The final straw came when Linda Peterson called me with news I was already expecting. "Adam, Carter Innovations law firm sent me a formal notice. They're claiming you violated confidentiality terms and are threatening accusations of sabotage." "Sabotage?" I asked, genuinely surprised by the audacity. "They claim you intentionally left technical documentation incomplete and that you're preventing the company from functioning normally." It was time for Benjamin to learn a lesson he would never forget. "Linda, prepare the response. It's time to show our cards." Linda Peterson's response arrived at Carter Innovations law firm on a Monday morning. It wasn't a defense. It was a declaration of legal war. A formal notice of patent violation and licensing terms, accompanied by a folder of documents Benjamin never imagined existed. "My client, Adam Wallace, informs that Carter Innovations is using intellectual property owned by him without legal authorization," the letter stated. "The patents in question, registered under Mr. Wallace's name between 2018 and 2023, are fundamental to the company's product functionality. The original licensing terms established that usage would be permitted only while Mr. Wallace maintained his position as R&D director or chief consultant." Along with the letter, Linda sent copies of all patents, intellectual property records from the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office, and the most devastating of all, an audio recording of a conversation I had had with my father 2 years earlier, where he agreed with my strategy to protect my intellectual creation. "Adam has always been the brain behind innovation," Frederick's voice said in the recording. "If something happens to me, he needs legal protection over his work. The company is nothing without his creations." I learned through my contacts that Benjamin received the notice during a meeting with investors. Jake Morrison told me he went pale, asked for a 10-minute break, and locked himself in the office with the company's lawyer. When he returned, the meeting was canceled. Benjamin called me that same afternoon, and for the first time since I'd known him, I heard genuine fear in his voice. "Adam, what the hell is this? What's this story about patents in your name?" "Exactly what's written in the documentation, Benjamin," I replied calmly. "I developed those algorithms in my spare time, with my own resources, and registered them legally. The company had a license to use them while I was the technical lead." "You can't do this. You worked for the company. Everything you developed belongs to Carter Innovations." "Not when it was developed outside work hours with personal resources and legally registered before even being implemented at the company. I suggest you talk to your lawyers about the nuances of intellectual property law." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "What do you want, Adam? I want you to understand that I'm not just the artist you can discard whenever you want. I want you to recognize that your actions have consequences." All right. You can come back as R&D director with whatever salary you want, whatever conditions you want." "No, Benjamin. That ship has sailed." I hung up the phone and waited. I knew the next move would be even more desperate. It didn't take long. 2 weeks later, Linda informed me that Benjamin had scheduled an emergency meeting with the entire company board of directors. He was trying to find a legal way out, some loophole he could exploit. "He's claiming you acted in bad faith," Linda said, "that you hid vital information from the company and that this constitutes a breach of trust. And what's your legal opinion on that?" "That he doesn't have a leg to stand on. You acted within the law, registered everything correctly, and the licensing terms were clear. Besides, you never hid anything. Your father knew, I knew, and it was documented." The board meeting took place on a Friday afternoon. I wasn't present, but Linda represented me, carrying an even thicker folder of documents. She told me later it was one of the most satisfying experiences of her career as a lawyer. "Benjamin tried to paint you as a saboteur," she said. "He claimed you had planned this for years, that it was a calculated attack on the family business. And what did you respond? That he was right. You had planned for years, not an attack, but protection. I presented all the evidence, Patents registered years before any conflict. Emails where you warned about the importance of intellectual property. The recording with your father approving the strategy. Linda made a dramatic pause. Then I said, "Gentlemen, the problem isn't that Adam Wallace protected his work. The problem is that Benjamin Carter fired the only person who could keep this company running, and now he's trying to blame everyone but himself." The result was devastating for Benjamin. The board, made up of experienced businessmen who understood the importance of intellectual property, was horrified to discover that the new president had created a legal problem that could destroy the company. They asked Benjamin technical questions about the products, Linda continued. He couldn't answer any of them. It became clear to everyone that he really didn't understand what the company did. He just sold what you created. The final blow came when one of the board members, Robert Mitchell, an industry veteran, asked a simple question. "Benjamin, can you explain to us how you intend to solve this legal problem and keep the company operational?" Benjamin had no answer. For the first time in his life, his smooth talk didn't work. He was facing a problem he couldn't solve with charm or manipulation. The meeting ended with Benjamin being suspended from his duties while the board seeks a solution, Linda said. "And they want to talk to you." I smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't satisfaction over my brother's downfall. It was relief to see that justice still existed. Benjamin had underestimated not only my technical value, but also my ability to protect myself legally. "Schedule the meeting," I said. "It's time to save the company my father built." The next night, Sarah found me in the home office, reviewing technical documents. "How do you feel?" she asked. "I feel validated," I replied. For years, Benjamin treated me like I was just a dreamer, someone who didn't understand the real world of business. Now he's discovering that the real world includes consequences for your actions. "Are you going to accept leading the company?" I looked at her and smiled. "I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to show everyone how a tech company should really be run." The meeting with the board of directors took place on a Tuesday morning, in the conference room where my father had conducted so many important meetings over the years. When I entered, I saw familiar faces: Robert Mitchell, Margaret Stevens, David Chen, people who knew the company's history and respected my father's legacy. "Adam," said Robert Mitchell, the board chairman, "first, we want to apologize for what happened. We should have investigated more thoroughly before approving Benjamin's decisions." "There's no need for apologies," I replied. "You trusted a Carter family member. The betrayal was against all of us." Margaret Stevens, who had been my father's mentor decades ago, leaned forward. "Adam, the company is in crisis. We've lost 3 major contracts. We have product issues our current team can't solve, and our reputation is shaken. We need you." She paused and continued. "The board is offering you the presidency of Carter Innovations, with total autonomy over research and development, and a compensation package that includes significant equity participation." I looked at each of them. They were serious people who understood the value of innovation and technical leadership. "I accept," I said, "but with some conditions." "What conditions?" asked David Chen. "First, Benjamin will be completely removed from any position in the company. Second, we'll implement an intellectual property protection program for all our innovators. Third, we'll create a culture where technical talent is valued as much as commercial skills." Robert Mitchell smiled. "Done. Welcome back, Adam. Or rather, welcome as our new president." In the following months, I worked tirelessly to rebuild Carter Innovations. The first task was solving the technical problems caused by the inadequate team Benjamin had hired. I spent 2 weeks reviewing code, fixing bugs, and restoring functionality to our main products. Jake Morrison, who had remained loyal throughout the crisis, became my right-hand man. "Adam," he said one afternoon, "it's incredible how everything started working again so quickly. It was like the company was waiting for you to return." "It wasn't waiting for me to return," I replied. "It was waiting for someone who truly understood what we do here." I restored the lost contracts one by one. The German company, which had canceled the agreement during Benjamin's management, not only renewed the contract, but increased the scope after I personally conducted a detailed technical presentation. They were impressed with the depth of knowledge and clear vision for the product's future. 6 months after assuming the presidency, Carter Innovations had not only recovered, but was stronger than ever. I implemented innovation programs that encouraged employees to develop their own ideas, created an internal fund for employee patents, and established a culture where creativity was valued as much as financial results. Benjamin, during this period, struggled to find any position of relevance in the market. His reputation in Austin's business community had been ruined. News about how he had nearly destroyed a respected family business spread quickly in business circles. No serious company wanted to hire someone with a track record of such disastrous decisions. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he had tried to start his own consulting business, but without success. Without the technical foundation I provided, without the reputation Carter Innovations had built, he discovered that his sales skills alone weren't enough. A year later, I received an unexpected call. It was Benjamin. "Adam," he said, and for the first time since we were children, I heard genuine humility in his voice. I'd like to talk to you." "About what?" I asked. "About what I did. About how I screwed everything up." There was a long pause. "You were right. I didn't understand the value of what you did. I thought it was just technical. I didn't realize you were the heart of the company." I sighed. "Benjamin, what happened is in the past. I've moved on. The company has moved on. I know. I just wanted you to know that I understand now, and that I'm sorry." After I hung up, I thought about the whole situation. I didn't feel anger or resentment toward Benjamin. I felt pity. He had destroyed his own career through pride and misdirected ambition. Life had taken care of teaching him a lesson I could never have taught. 2 years passed. Carter Innovations flourished under my leadership. We won innovation awards, expanded into new markets, and most importantly, created a culture where talent was genuinely valued. Young engineers and designers came from across the country to work with us, attracted by our reputation as a company that truly invested in creativity. Sarah found me one night in the office reviewing proposals for a new research lab. "Any regrets?" she asked. "About what?" "About being so patient. About not exploding when Benjamin fired you. About doing everything so civilly." I smiled at her. No. If I had reacted with anger, I would have become like him. The sweetest revenge isn't what you impose. It's what life imposes through the natural consequences of a person's actions. I looked out the office window, seeing Austin's light stretching to the horizon. Benjamin taught me something valuable, even unintentionally. He showed me that true power isn't in titles or control, but in the ability to create something that truly matters and to protect that creation. "And what did you learn about family?" Sarah asked. "That real family is those who value and support you, not just those who share the same blood." My father knew this. That's why he helped me protect myself. Today, 3 years later, Carter Innovations is one of Texas's most respected tech companies. Our products are used worldwide, our employees are happy and valued, and our reputation for innovation is solid. Benjamin still struggles to rebuild his career. Occasionally, I hear news about him through acquaintances. He's working as a freelance consultant, taking small projects, trying to rebuild his reputation one step at a time. I don't feel satisfaction from his fall, but I also don't feel guilt. He made his choices, and the consequences were natural. The lesson I learned throughout this experience is simple. The business world can be ruthless, but it still rewards competence, honesty, and true value creation. You can fool people for a while, you can manipulate situations in your favor, but in the end, reality always prevails. Those who create real value, who solve genuine problems, who contribute meaningfully, that person will always find their place. And those who only manipulate, who only try to take credit for others' work, will eventually be exposed. Carter Innovations continues growing, innovating, creating, and I continue doing what I've always done best, transforming ideas into reality, creating solutions that make a difference in the world. Only now, finally, in a position where I can protect not just my own work, but that of all the innovators who work with me. That's true revenge. Not the destruction of the other, but building something better than they could ever have imagined. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and leave a comment telling us what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching and see you next time.